Nice to have you with us as we kick off our 3 radio program on a Monday afternoon, the 16th day of April 2019. It's welcome time, and good to have you aboard. Colin Schmelling in the house today. Of course, Eddie Erickson, yours truly, as we take you for another hour or so here on Mad Dog Unleashed, 888 Mad Dog 6. Let's go through a couple things here right out of the gate, and then we'll get your calls in, and away we go. Patriots are interesting right now with all the news that they made in the offseason. Listen, the bottom line is that you are talking about a team that, has had a lot of issues here in this offseason that are unique to them. Amendola gets traded. Then he gets annoyed at Belichick and says he's not one of the greatest guys I've ever played for, blah, blah, blah. Surprising there. They trade Cooks to the Rams to get a draft pick. That was a little bit of a surprising move. Malcolm Butler, of course, after the Super Bowl. We all know about that scenario. And then he ends up going, of course, to the Tennessee Titans. And so does Deion Lewis. He goes there as well from that perspective. So, and then, of course, you got Brady's not going to participate, and you can't blame Brady. I mean, Brady, at this point of his career, is not going to go to all these little workouts, these team conventions and all that kind of stuff. He's just not going to do it. Normally he does that kind of thing, but, and he'll be there once the first day of training camp is upon us. He'll be on top of that. But Brady is not going to sit there, and he's just not going to go. I guess they had some little off-season stuff to deal with the last couple of days. Brady's not going to that. Bottom line is Brady's not going to that. So he's just not doing it. And then the Gronkowski thing, too, is interesting. Probably does with, a couple of things I think of. First off, I think Gronkowski sees himself in an actor role like that Vaughn Johnson guy. What's his name? I never see him. I don't watch those movies. Those Rampage things where he plays the big strong guy and he takes on these incredible I wouldn't watch a movie like that if I get my favorite line, if they put it poolside in my backyard with the Mai Tai in front of me, I wouldn't watch that film. And I think Gronk thinks of himself long term in that regard. I don't know if I could see that with him. Big, strong guy like Johnson, he's kind of a goofy personality. People like Gronkowski. People like that younger crowd likes Gronkowski. He's got that kind of goofy personality. He's a great athlete. They like that. He likes to party, take his shirt off, all those goofy things. That's Gronkowski, and I think he envisions himself in that kind of role. And I think that's where this retirement situation has been, on the outside. I think it's all about the retirement spot. The scenario with the retirement situation with, at the end of the season at the Super Bowl, did not necessarily make the full commitment that he'd be back next year when everybody thinks he will be back. But I think it really stems from the idea that he kind of sees himself in a different role in his post-career, very money-making role. And I think a lot of it comes down from that. Plus, he's been hurt a lot, concussions a lot. I think that bothers him, too. He's tired of it. But I think at the end of the day, Gronkowski is going to play next year for the Pats. But the bottom line is New England has had some, I don't want to call them issues, but they've had some developments since really the Super Bowl week. That's when Butler's issue came across. They've had some elements this offseason, beginning on Super Bowl the day of. That's weird for them. They discard players left and right. Half the time, I can't believe they do that, but they always do that. A lot of guys you think that, are Patriots for life don't turn out to be for life. But again, they've done 4 or 5 things that are interesting here, and we'll see what this means, if it means anything at all long term. So New England making news. I do think Gronkowski is going to play. I think that he may not be one of those guys who plays to hang on late in his career, that extra season, go be a specialist kind of tight end where he catches a couple balls again. I don't see him doing that because I think Gronkowski has a great ability to make a lot of money and have fun doing something else besides playing football. So I don't think he's going to be one of those guys who hangs around, but I think he still feels he's got plenty left. He's still the best tight end in football, if he's healthy. So I think you'll see Gronkowski on the Patriots in 2018. That's number 1 today. Number 2 today is let's do the hockey for a second. The story really, the first round has been 2 stories. Vegas winning 3 one-goal games against the Kings. They won, 1-0, 2-1 in double overtime, 3-2 last night. The 3-2 game last night was a real crippler. The game was in L.A., as you know, 2-zip up Vegas. L.A. needs to win a home game to get back in the series, and of course, they have a 1-0 lead going into the third period, and then Vegas scores 3 successive goals, 2 in 19 seconds, held on the last couple minutes after the Kings had got it back to 3-2, and Vegas takes a commanding 3-0 lead in that series. The Kings have said a lot in that series. They've said, you know, we have more experience. We'll show Vegas. We'll do this. Doughty's had a lot to say. Doughty gets suspended for the second game. They lose in double overtime. Maybe if he plays, they win. And he says we'll come back and win game 3. They've had a lot to say, the Kings, and all they've had to say, show for it right now, is 3 consecutive losses. So Vegas is story number 1. They got a very good transitional game. They got a lot of speed. They play 4 lines. It looks to me that Vegas is a team that might have a couple of rounds in them that they can win here in this postseason. Plus, that environment in Vegas is fun. So that's item number 1 is that series. And item number 2 are the Capitals. I mean, to a certain degree, the Leafs, too. Ambushed twice by Boston. But it's incredible about the Capitals. Some teams just don't have any luck. I mean, part of it's them. Part of it's the black cloud that's over the franchise. But it's really mind-boggling to think that since '98, they have not gotten out of the second round of the postseason in the NHL playoffs. It is hard to believe that team has not been able to do that in 20 years. And, for half of those years, they've had Ovechkin. And they've had a lot of talent, and they have not been able to get out of that second round. And they may not be able to get out of the first round this year. Lost 2 overtime games in a row. Lost a 2-0 lead with a power play in game 1. Last night, you felt they were in good shape. They had a 2-0 lead again, then a 3-1 lead. The game gets tied. They have then they trail 4-3. Then they tie the game up late, have some power play opportunities, dominate the overtime, and then Columbus wins the game. I mean, it's incredible how that team is snake bit on a year in, year out basis. Part of it's being snake bit. Part of it's the idea that, maybe it's the way they play. Ovechkin is cursed. The goaltending is not as good as you'd like it to be. Part of it's that. Part of it's with Pittsburgh in the same division. They've lost to them a lot. There's a lot of reasons, but it's really mind-boggling to me that team with that talent just can't get out of its own way with the money on the line. It's hard to believe. And although they are not dead in this series, these games have been close. It's not like Columbus is that good, but it's hard to think now they're going to beat them 4-5. Watch the Capitals win 2 games in a row and then lose game 5 at home. I mean, that's that kind of thing. I mean, watch them figure out a way to get to game 7 and lose game 7 at home. It's that kind of thing. I mean, they're a weird team, that team. I mean, they really are. All right, that's the second thing I wanted to say. Third thing I wanted to say, we mentioned the weather with the schedule, with baseball causing all sorts of havoc. The other thing I wanted to say is the fact that we have 4 good teams right now that are off to great starts. I mean, the Angels, if you look at their record, what are they, 13-3? I don't even know what the Angels are. I think they're 13-3. Let's just double check. Let's get it right so you guys know. Yeah, the Angels are 13-3. The Mets are 12-2. Arizona is 11-4. And the Red Sox are 13-2. I mean, wow. Think about it. The Red Sox, the Angels, and Arizona, they are a combined 5, 11, 24, 36, 49 of 60, the 2 teams. Wow. Those 4 teams I said 2 teams. Those 4 teams are 49 and 11. That's how good those 4 teams have been out of the gate. On the other side of it are the 3 teams in the NL that you thought were going to be great teams. I can include the Yankees, but I won't. The Nationals are 7-9. The Cubs are 7-7. And the Dodgers are 5-9. If you want to put the Yankees in there, let's do that for the hell of it. Because the Yankees are 7-7 too. So the Yankees and Cubs are 7-7. And then the Dodgers and the Nationals are combined 6 games under 500. That's incredible, with the other 4 teams doing as well as they have done. I mean, the Nationals, they're losing a lot of weird games. They had a long homestand, and they lost 3 games in the other team's last at bat. Yesterday was a brutal loss to Colorado. They gave up a home run in the 9th inning at 5-5. The Cubs can't hit. They're hitting like 193 with runners in scoring position. The Dodgers missed Justin Turner badly, and that overachieving crew that won 104 last year. It's hard to do that 2 years in a row. The Yankees are the Yankees. I mean, they haven't pitched that great. They've kind of stuttered around to a 7-7 start. It's kind of weird when you look at the baseball right there, and you see the four teams that everybody thought would be in the postseason, all 500 or worse. And then you saw the four teams, which only one of them you thought would be a postseason team in the Red Sox, or a combined 49-11. I would be concerned if I'm a Washington fan because they play here this week at the Mets. 3 games. They face DeGrom tonight against Hellickson. Scherzer and Strasburg do not pitch in this series for Washington. Hard for me to believe that the Nationals played 6 games against the Mets, and they did not organize their pitching staff to have Scherzer pitch in any of the games. I mean, he did not pitch the first time they played, and he's not pitching this week, which to me is ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. And then the Nationals, after the Mets series, go to the West Coast, and they face Kershaw Friday night. Maybe Saturday, whoever he pitches. One of those games. So the Nationals are in a little tricky spot. They are already, if you look at the Nationals, 7 back of the Mets. If they ever lose 2 out of 3, they'd be 8 back 3 weeks into the season. 8 back and 1-5 against the Mets. Think about that for a sec. And finally, a weird one. I'm hitting golf balls on Saturday afternoon with my 12-year-old. I go into the clubhouse or to the grill room. I get him some French fries. It's about 4 o'clock, and I have a salad. Okay. It's a golf club, so they put the golf on. I mean, obviously, they're not going to show you, Golden State, San Antonio. Well, they could if I asked, but they had the golf on. The Heritage Classic in Hilton Head. Always a fun tournament. And I did not have the sound on. Okay, so I'm watching the golf, sitting there on a little table. It's probably about 4:15. And I see this plane, a Singapore Airlines, flying low, and these weird turns, these banks and everything else, basically 1,500 above the ground over Hilton Head Island. I said, what the hell is this? And it was dipsy-do. I saw all the fans and the players looking up in the sky. I actually thought it was a plane in distress. It was the strangest thing that I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. It was a big new 787 Singapore. First off, I said to myself, what's a Singapore Airlines doing over Hilton Head Island, a small little airport in Hilton Head? It was going to Atlanta. Something must have happened. What's going on here? And they showed this. I didn't have the sound up, so I didn't hear Nance. But they showed this for about 10 minutes. I said, holy crap, what is happening here? I got actually frightened. Then I realized, through my father, Rob, the fake priest who's now in Rapid City, then I realized that Charleston is a Boeing plant. And when I visited the College of Charleston last year, I realized the big Boeing plant at the airport, and I was looking at the flight schedule. I noticed that Alaskan Airlines, has a nonstop every day Anchorage to Charleston. I said, geez, they got us. It may have been Seattle, but it was one of those weird. It was either Anchorage or Seattle. I said, they got a nonstop to the Alaska from here? Couldn't believe it. Then I realized they had a Boeing plant, and then I realized, oh, that's it. They're test running these big 787s out of Charleston. It's 2 hours from Hilton Head, and they're test running over Hilton Head Island. Strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. You must go find video for that. A big 787 basically doing daredevil acts 2,000 feet above Hilton Head Island's golf course in Harbortown. We're taking time out. We continue. 18 after the hour here on Mad Dog.